Hello, everybody. I'm Drew Duncan. The show's fired up, and we are live. I am brought to you in part by WBFR Block 50 Radio, which is online 24/7, 365 at block50radio.com. I am wherever you are listening to podcasts. Take your device to play Fired Up by Drew Duncan on iTunes, iHeart, etc. Wherever you're listening, I am there. I am on YouTube, The Real Drew Duncan, TheRL Drew Duncan, where I do post entire episodes for free. Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram is all at Drew Duncan and Drew Duncan Radio. Guys, plenty to get to today. Your NCAA tournament bracket, which is your best one. Like I said, I only filled out one. So I was a G about mine. I'm just saying. We're going to be talking about Kim Mulkey today in the Washington Post. Audi crooks. Really? The comments are just, you know what, whatever. It is what it is, I suppose. But we're going to be getting into that as well. What about Andre Lima? He got bit. Ridiculous. Plenty to get to today. Caitlin Clark, she says that there are more people who are interested in women's basketball this year than they are interested in men's basketball for the NCAA tournament. We're going to be talking about that as well. We begin with Kim Mulkey, the Washington Post. Man alive, this is a legitimate beef that is going on. Here is the initial side.
This reporter has been working on a story about me for 2 years. After 2 years of trying to get me to sit with him for an interview, he contacts LSU on Tuesday as we were getting ready for the first round game of this tournament with more than a dozen questions, demanding a response by Thursday, right before we're scheduled to tip off. Are you kidding me? This was a ridiculous deadline that LSU and I could not possibly meet, and the reporter knew it. It was just an attempt to prevent me from commenting and an attempt to distract us from this tournament. It ain't gonna work, buddy. Unfortunately, this is part of a pattern that goes back years. I told this reporter 2 years ago that I didn't appreciate the hit job he wrote on Brian Kelly.
Well, there it is, Kim Mulkey laying it out there, which, if anybody knows her by now, Coach Kim is really not afraid of the media. And let's be honest, when you go after the media goes after you. There's bad blood. Remember towards the beginning of the season when Angel Reese was out for a few games and she told the media, look, you think you are entitled to know something. You're not entitled to know, and that's that. Remember that? And I stood with her. I'm going to keep it a buck. Now, as far as the thing with Brian Kelly goes, look, here's the deal, okay? And I'm going to be short about this because I've said this too many times over the course of my career. The bottom line to Brian Kelly is he abandoned everybody at Cincinnati. He abandoned everybody at Notre Dame. He's always looking for higher ground, the next buck. Meanwhile, he's literally holding press conferences with Congress trying to get them to keep the term student athlete, wanting caps on NIL deals, saying that the transfer portal needs to be revamped and revisited, and that he wants the U.S. government to step in. Well, it was the U.S. government who stepped in for the NIL deal initially. And it is the government and local governments that are passing laws as we speak saying that the NCAA cannot investigate them for NIL deals. That's what halted the investigation that was going on at Tennessee. There are 13 other states other than Tennessee at the beginning of the season last year that said no. Missouri, Texas, Oklahoma, New York, and a host of others said you are not going to come in and investigate NIL deals. Why does Brian Kelly want the transfer portal and all that looked at and revamped? Well, because he can no longer be the control freak that he was with his athletes. It's really hard to control somebody and scream at somebody incoherently on the sideline when they can just up and roll out. You're going to have to learn how to be a real coach now. So there's that. As far as what Coach Kim is saying, look, the Washington Post has put out a statement. They have said, look, here's the scenario. We have, in fact, tried to do a story on Kim Mulkey. We have a reporter on it, and that's it. That's as far as they are going. They are not giving the details, and I'm going to tell people how it goes in a newsroom. Understand that I am an accredited member of the media. I have awards from the Kansas Association of Broadcasters that are research-based awards predominantly for things like concussion, privacy laws, psychology of the criminal mind, etc. What happens in a newsroom is you pitch something. You say, look, I got an idea for a story. Here's what I want it to be. Here's some leads I think I can obtain. And I'm going to go ahead and try and put this out. Now, according to her, this has been a pursued thing for the last couple of years. So I'm going to explain to you what's going on in that newsroom right now. Hey, it's the NCAA tournament. We need to be able to cabbage onto this. This thing has been going on. You've been dragging it out. You haven't been able to get anything. We need you to get something, drop this story, and we're going to move on from you. That is legitimately the type of pressure that gets put on somebody in a newsroom. That's how it works. And by the way, the story doesn't always get accepted. You can pitch it 100 times over. Doesn't mean that it'll be accepted, which is why they're not saying anything about what type of story it is, because until they release it, they don't want anybody to know what's going on. Now, I'm not saying I believe the Washington Post about anything because they haven't said anything other than that, and I'm not saying that I believe Coach Kim. It could be a smear campaign. It could also be somebody just doing their job. I know all the tricks of the trade. I was taught that you could pay people for information. I was taught that you never give up that source. I was taught about subliminal messaging, all kinds of things when I studied mass communications with an emphasis on sports analysis. So while I am not necessarily inclined to believe somebody right out of the gate, I'm not necessarily inclined to disbelieve them either, simply because I know what I have been taught. Man, why are you out in reporters, bro? This is our business, da-da-da-da-da. Because I don't like shady that's why. So if it is true, there's that fine line between doing your job and going overboard sometimes. It is what it is. I've crossed the line a couple of times in terms of things that I've said about athletes the same way that Colin Cowherd or Stephen A. or anybody else has. But I've been checked on it. When I got checked on it, I peeled back. That's the way that has been. And I didn't get checked on it by the athlete. I got checked on it by people around me like, hey, bro, maybe that was a little too far. You might want to peel back on that. You know what? You're right. You might have to drag me kicking and screaming to get me to that point, but I'll get there eventually if I really see your side of it. The point of what I'm saying is we have little information. We have what Coach Kim is saying. We have the one little statement that the Washington Post has put out. And that's it. We don't have enough to make a definitive judgment on what is happening right now. Is being a reporter a dirty game sometimes? Yeah. Nightcrawler, you ever seen that movie? That's, I'm going to tell you something. Some of that's a bit of an exaggeration, but I'm going to tell you what, you would be surprised what a motherfucker will do to get a story. Got to get those clicks, especially in the social media era, 24/7, 365. Got to be willing to do it. You have to sometimes do things that you don't necessarily agree with, which is why I refuse to work for a corporation like that ever again. So it is what it is. We'll see what all comes out the wash. But in the meantime, that's Coach Kim's side. The Washington Post, again, has said, yes, we're trying to get a story done. Is she making herself look bad by jumping the gun like this? I could go either way on it. I'll accept either argument as to whether she is or not. I will say this is how it's done. You head to the press, you get your side out there immediately, and you try to get people to hang with you. Not an uncommon tactic in 2024. Really for about the last 7 or 8 years, honestly. Jump the gun on it, get it out in front of people. It is what it is. Moving on, Caitlin Clark. She says that people are more interested in what's going on with the women's tournament than they are with the men's tournament. Well, I'm just going to let you hear it right from the horse's mouth.
I don't know. There's been like a lot of little moments, I think. I think just the crowds at our games, but also just like the people screaming and like wanting our autographs. Like people just scream my name constantly. And I think that's something that really never gets old or something you never take for granted. I think even like when you're out and about, like doing your own things, living your personal life, the people that come up to you and like really support your team and understand the game, I think that's the coolest thing. But I think also just in general, like the excitement around this tournament, like it's super cool. Like people are more excited about the women's side than the men's side, and I think that's obviously something that's really never been the case before, and it's cool to see how it's evolved. Like when I first started this when I was a freshman, like we couldn't even use the March Madness branding, and now to see this, and really it's just taken a whole nother level, and I expect it to continue to grow this year, and I think that's the coolest thing for myself. I don't know.
Well, there you have it, directly from Caitlin Clark herself. You're not going to hear me misquote anybody. I'll tell you that much. Look, for the most part, I support what she said, and I've talked about it 1,000,001 times over the last couple of months on this program. Okay? Understand that during last season, the women had a record high viewership for themselves, 12.6 million, when Iowa played LSU for the national championship. Then again, I pointed out what happened with Nebraska. When Iowa was getting ready to play Nebraska at Nebraska this year, not only was it the biggest attendance ever for an NCAA women's basketball game at Nebraska, but there were people that were waiting outside at 4:30 in the morning for that game. We're talking typical collegiate stuff going on there, stuff that you see with football. People lining up out the door, already doing their tailgating thing. We haven't even cracked dawn yet. It's cold. It's windy. That's Nebraska. And they are out there in Lincoln waiting. Now, that says a lot about where the game is going. To that point, she is 100% correct. You look at the Aces, again, I reiterate, the Aces, they have sold out. Why have they sold out? Well, because there's that thing right now where Caitlin Clark, Juju Watkins, Angel Reese, and a host of others are probably going to end up in the WNBA this year. That's what that is. There's interest. There's excitement. And look, 20, 30, 40 years from now, I really hope that Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese get their due for potentially saving women's basketball. The same way that Magic and Larry saved the NBA and Jordan kept it going through the 90s, I really hope that women's basketball is saved by these two because they have created a lot. They really have. And I'm going to tell you something. If it carries over to the WNBA and they really blow it out of the water, I really hope that they fully 100% get their due. No disrespect to Rebecca Lobo. No disrespect to Lisa Leslie. They just did not have the star power that these two have. And you could call it a rivalry. You can say they're frenemies. You can say whatever you want to. The point of what I'm saying is what they've got going on is real deal. And if they play each other in the tournament again, it'll be during the Elite Eight. And it will probably be one of the most watched Elite Eight games ever. Now, as far as there being more interest in the men other than the women, well, let me put some things in perspective. A season ago was a record, like I said, for the championship game for women when Iowa played LSU, 12.6 million viewers. It was a record low for the men's, 14.7 million viewers, or 14.3, pardon me. And already this season, during the NCAA men's tournament, on average, 10.8 million have been watching just about every single game that has been played in the NCAA men's. Now, there's nothing definitive that I've been able to find about what the numbers are so far this year for the women's. But in terms of what she said about the game going in a good direction and where it's headed and how the women are beginning to look to a lot of men watching the game, 110% I'm right there with you. But to say that there's more interest, no, I'm going to say no to that. I would say more interest than ever before, and I would agree with that statement. But to say that there's more interest, no. But to men who have been watching women's basketball, it is an exciting game. And I've said 100 times over, the only thing they're lacking right now is the ability to dunk. Everything else is good. In the WNBA, they're not there yet. But again, this new breed of athlete that is coming up right now for women's basketball, I think is going to inherently change the game for the better. So the WNBA will probably begin to get on that level. We'll see. Nothing is definitive, but it's certainly moving that direction. And really quick, I want to tap into something here really fast. Okay? Audi crooks. Look, I want to be clear before I get into this that I said the exact same thing about Zion. In case anybody is wondering, all the fat shaming that is going on, a couple double cheeseburgers, needing this, needing that, woo, woo, woo. She dropped a 40-piece. She's going to eat a 40-piece nugget afterwards. Man, your LDE is showing, pimpin'. Your insecurity is showing, pimpin'. Chill out, okay? Just, we're not here for this. We can do better than this. Stop being so soft, man. Stop being so soft. Look, dude, I'm a big dude, and I make big dude jokes all the time about myself. Hell, I just posted a video not too long ago where I was driving from McDonald's, and I was like, I just left McDonald's to do fat guy stuff. But that's me talking about me. Y'all just can't wait to be in somebody's comments to be an ass, can you? If you're a jerk, just say that you're a jerk. Don't say everybody's so soft. There's a joke, and then there's being an asshole, and you're going to have to decide which one you think you're being. You think you're so damn funny, then why the hell aren't you doing stand-up somewhere? Hater-ass haters. I'm telling you. Gets old. Because you really got nothing to say about her game. 18 out of 20, I don't give a damn. That's impressive. Good grief. I said what I said. I'm going to leave it at that. Good luck to you, amigo. Andre Lima got bit by Igor. Look, man, I'm not saying Igor isn't a vampire. I'm just saying we've never seen him walking around broad daylight, have we? And his name is Igor, if I'm saying it right. Regardless, do you know how filthy your mouth is, man? You know how gross that is? Look, I do all the weird in bed, all right? Talking about eating ass. I am more than happy to just lay down, stick my tongue out. Go ahead, Shotty, do what you want to do. If he dies, he dies. It's fine. Okay? But for some weird reason, I will not drink after somebody. I just won't do it. Because, once my brain is functioning again and I'm not thinking outside of myself, if I'm not on my Kevin Gates, I'm just thinking with my, right? If I'm thinking clearly, I don't even want to drink after somebody because that's gross. All your leftover food in there. Who the hell knows when the last time he brushed his teeth was? You have any idea how vile and disgusting your mouth is at the end of the day? Just nasty, bro. You are not Mike Tyson. When Mike Tyson did it, look, I'm not going to say it was for a reason that was at the end of the day justifiable, okay? But what I am going to say is that anybody who watched Evander Holyfield fight back in the day, you know that he was 110% a dirty fighter. But he was throwing elbows, headbutts, and Tyson warned the ref on multiple occasions. Brody, if he keeps it up, we're going to have a problem. Man, I saw the 30 for 30. They didn't incorporate that. No, of course they didn't. They needed to fit the nice guy Mike Tyson thing going on. Haven't you seen his training videos with Jake Paul, day 3? You still want to with me? Any man that's scared of himself, okay, the point of what I'm saying is, just like the Mitch Green thing. Everybody's like, man, Mike just knocked out Mitch Green. Man, you don't even know what was going on. That was a real personal beef. Mitch Green got his ass whooped in the ring again and then again at the club. Mike Tyson is literally the definition of fuck around and find out. You understand? Literally the definition of it. Now, the point of what I'm saying here is what old boy did was not Mike Tyson-esque, unless he's just got everybody out here feeling themselves again. And even then, they're still not understanding what in the hell the situation was. Does anybody remember that dude on the plane that was fucking with Mike? Brody was lucky he didn't end up eating out of a straw. You keep poking the bear, playing with him, water, sign an autograph, let me annoy you, let me annoy you, let me annoy you. It's different with Mike. People like to poke that bear, man. This is not it. At least nothing that I know of or that I've seen. And even then, MMA is pretty much an all-out war. So if you want to whip somebody's ass for talking whatever they said, then go ahead and get it done in the octagon, my man. That's what Chuck Liddell did, the Iceman. So, nasty. Your mama clearly didn't raise you correctly. Gross. Which, by the way, Andre Lima not only won the fight as a result of a disqualification, but he got the regular purse plus a $50K bonus. So, homie is Charlie Sheen winning out here. And by the way, Dana White says he's going to release him. There's the end of that. Buddy was undefeated going into that fight. Now his first L in the UFC turns into an overall huge L. How does your NCAA tournament bracket look? I know everybody out there's probably got 20 of them going. I'd be willing to bet. You know, honestly, man, I haven't even had a lot of time to check mine. I will say this. It was annoying for the longest time. What they kept making me sign in over and over again. Like, really, bro? Will you stop this already? Let's take a look and see how I'm doing in the brackets. Let's go ahead and start with the women's bracket. Let's see how well your boy fared with the women's bracket. So far, so good. Let's see. Going into the Sweet 16, I had South Carolina. I had Oregon State. I had Texas, Stanford, Colorado, LSU. Didn't have Baylor. Looks like I got USC and over Marshall for that one. And then I've got Duke. I had them in there. It's not doing too bad so far. We'll see how it all plays out today, obviously. Let's take a look at the men's, which I know was way worse. Oh, my Sweet 16 men's. Let's take a look here. Oh, boy. This is gross. All right, UConn, San Diego State had both of them. I had Drake and Moorhead. It is Illinois and Iowa State. I had North Carolina and Alabama. All right. I had Dayton and Baylor, which it's going to be Clemson and Arizona instead, so I didn't get that. I had Houston and James Madison. Houston is in. Duke beat James Madison, so I didn't get that one. I had Marquette over Oakland and said it's going to be Marquette and North Carolina State. I had Purdue over Samford. It's going to be Purdue and Gonzaga. And I had Creighton over Colorado State, and it is Creighton and Tennessee. So not great, but not terrible. You know, I'll take it. It's not the best that I've ever done in a bracket, but it's not the worst either. So it is what it is. But I only filled out one because I'm a G, homie. Which, by the way, I'm pretty much on point with how I felt about the Big 12, by the way. Would they have 9 teams get into the NCAA tournament this year? They're already down to 2. Now, I figured at this point it would be Houston and Baylor. It's Houston and Iowa State. I did feel that Houston was the best team, not only in the conference tournament, but potentially in all of basketball. I still have North Carolina to beat them, although I might end up changing that pick a little bit later on personally. Obviously, you can't change it in the bracket right now. Everything is locked. They're not letting you do that anymore, are they? But may change it. That was a hell of a game last night, by the way, with Houston and A&M. Man, I'm going to tell you what, A&M just kept coming at them. The amount of energy that they were playing with at the end of that game was astounding. And if you look at the Cougar players, man, they were tired. They were kind of sick of it. You could tell, like, bro, you're not better than us. Well, Texas A&M was, you're going to have to show me. Man alive, the energy that they played with at the end of that game, had they played with that kind of energy the entire game, they might have won that game convincingly. Whew. There was no quit in them. I'm telling you what, that was a solid last 4 minutes in regulation to watch, and then, of course, overtime. Every time Houston seemed to have that thing in control, Houston just came roaring back. But sometimes that's the ego of a team, too. But regardless, Houston moves on to the Sweet 16. How does your bracket look? I'm curious. And I know you're going to give me your best one. It's fine. But I kind of feel like Charles Barkley right now. Thanks for doing me no favors. All right, everybody, I am Drew Duncan. The show's fired up, and we are live. Brought to you in part by WBFR Block 50 Radio, which is online 24/7, 365 at block50radio.com. I am wherever you are listening to podcasts. Take a device to play Fired Up by Drew Duncan, iTunes, iHeart. Wherever you're listening, I am there. The Real Drew Duncan is my YouTube channel, VRL Drew Duncan, where I do post entire episodes for free. Guys, your local programming is next. Don't you dare touch that dial.